Welcome back to TotallyT, your solutions girl, along with Anita Corrigan. We're going to talk about get prepping and why, because you know why? Knowledge is power, and the application of knowledge is actually wisdom, which when you're knowledgeable and you know what to apply, then all of a sudden your stress is reduced and you feel empowered. And that's the purpose. There is a reason why you need to start prepping now. So what we're going to do is go through reasons to start prepping now and why. Do you know what the CDC Director has said recently about this C virus? This virus will probably go into well beyond this season into next year. And he also said, I think eventually this virus will also find a foothold, and we will also get community-based transmission. He also added, a person can transmit to others while showing no symptoms. Here's something else you need to know. You can get reinfected, and we will explain why. This is something that's important because normally when we catch something and we're over it, we're like, it's okay, I'll be the caretaker now because I've built up an immunity now. Not so in this situation. This is one of the reasons why we thought we really need to get some information out to you. So, it's highly possible to get infected a second time. A few people recovered from the first time by their own immune system, but the meds that they used are damaging their heart tissue, and when they get it the second time, the antibody doesn't help but makes it worse. And they die a sudden death from heart failure. I have a couple of other quotes, and then I'm going to turn this over to Anita to expand a little bit deeper on this. Chinese pulmonologist, and I don't know how to say his name, but you can see it on the screen, saying that the average incubation period is 3 days, but it can take as little as 1 day and up to 24 days to develop symptoms. Remember, you can have this and be contagious to other people. Sorry, I'll turn that off, and not even know that, right? That's a long time. That's a lot of people you'd be around. Also, and I can't read it because my screen is on top of it. Let's see. Also, the source said that false negatives, man, you really need to listen to this. False negative tests for the virus are fairly common. It can fool the test kit. There were cases that they found. The CT scan shows both lungs are fully infected, but the test came back negative 4 times. The 5th test came back positive, and that was in the Taiwan Times. So the information that you see on the screen, I'll also have the links in the description box below so you can read in full. Anita, what do you have to expand upon? There's a lot right here, and we want to make this brief so we can get into our checklist and tell you what you need to do about this. Anita?
Yes, I just want to say that there's a lot of people practicing medicine here. Practicing medicine means they are trying to figure this out because no one really knows. And when you're not presenting on a test, doesn't mean, I mean, there's so many different variables for those tests. Who administered them? Is there enough virus present to even detect? It'll only detect at certain levels. As far as the time that this is going to be active, I think that really has a lot of question marks after it. I know of one case on a military base where somebody who had actually been involved in assisting in a official capacity presented 40 days after. Didn't start presenting until 40 days after. So a lot of the statistics that we're hearing out here are really kind of just guesstimations at best. A lot of it has to do with your immune system, has to do with your stress level, all of these things we're going to talk about today. And
so that's what we're going to do. We're going to move into the next section, and I think you just seen if it's up to 24 days to develop symptoms and you can get reinfected, your whole family could just be down and out while they're quarantined possibly or waiting for recovery for several months. So this is why you need to pay attention to the rest of this presentation. Okay. What needs to be considered priority right now, because to prep yourself, for one, you're going to need to know what you have to have, but prioritizing can be very difficult. So there's 3 things we're going to go through. How to build your immune system right now. That is a top priority. Supply and demand and what to expect. And then we're going to show you a checklist so you can get to prepping as well. Why we wanted to do it in this formal type presentation is so that you can stop and do some screen captures, so you will have record of those lists. You can go home and make out your list yourself, add to, make plans with your family, and that type of thing. How do you do it? What do they mean by screen capturing, Anita?
Well, for those who may be challenged technologically, it could be as easy as pulling out your smartphone and taking a picture of the screen if you don't know how to do it on your own PC or laptop.
Yes.
On a phone, it's very easy. You push the 2 buttons. If you don't know how to do that, get with somebody younger in your family. They can probably bring you up to speed.
That's right. These younger ones know everything. So, building your immune system. Number 1, stay away from sugar, sweeteners, and energy drinks. They do destroy your immune system. We did one specifically on building your immune system now, so if you want to go in depth, we do explain all the reasons that are on this list, and you can find out more information. For time's sake, we're going to move pretty quickly. You need food and water at least for 3 months. Just start, that's your goal, okay? Now, what do you need out of food? Because you might not be able to get your fresh veggies and fruits and that type of thing, but you need fat, carbs, and proteins. And the best source of fat, in our opinion, would be coconut oil, because you can buy it in a large tub. It has a pretty good shelf life. It's really good with not being so heat sensitive and losing its valuable properties, and it does help to strengthen the immune system. So that is a really good reason. There's a lot of things you can look up on about coconut oil and the different ways that you can use it. So I suggest you do that. On carbs, my preference is rice, easily storable, very affordable, and I like the basmati rice. I think it's the best because of the way that it grows. And it's going to hold that little rice in, I don't know what you call that. I mean, would it be the sheath? So it's very well protected from any kind of sprays and contaminants. But rice, just get what you can, even long grain brown rice. Proteins, so you need meats, right? So you might even want to look at some cells and get to canning. Look up on YouTube how to start canning. But I'm sure that you could find meats that are on sale, and you can buy them in the flats or the cases. Freeze-dried foods, if you can afford it. Start canning, like I said, when things are on sale. You need your vitamins and minerals through right now building your immune system, because what if you don't have access to that later? But all your vitamins and minerals are in colorful foods. So if you're not getting a lot of color through your fruits and vegetables, you're not getting everything that you need. So try to find a way to start liking it if you don't like your fruits and vegetables. Now, on the next one, we have pink Himalayan salt. Anita, I'm going to let you go into this. In fact, why don't you just take this whole last section, because we talked in depth about pink Himalayan salt. Just give them a snippet of it, because I will put the link below, and they need to do a lot of research on this and why.
Excellent. Most people understand the value of salt. It was a means of actually payment in history. People were paid in salt. It was such a valuable thing. It's used for curing meat. It's used for medicinal purposes. It's used in health and wellness. It is a known natural preservative. Himalayan salt is very different than most salts that you know of. Many of those have been dehydrated from salt water in the oceans. Himalayan salt is actually a mined salt. it is very different. And for people who have got salt sensitivity, this does not have the same properties. This is actually not a fortified salt. It is naturally rich in 84 different trace minerals. It helps with, electrolysis, the little communication your cells do. It upregulates that function, which means any part of you that's made up of cells is going to function better with the right potassium and sodium balance. And this also contains other things like magnesium and other viable things that help us to really operate at our best. As we talked earlier about your immune system, when your cells are working better, your immune system's working better. You can drink this in water, you can put it in soups, you can put it on your protein sources, you can use it as a preservative. You can take baths in it. There's all kinds of positive uses for this. There's so much out here about this, but it's a pink salt. And because of its high mineral content, it does taste a little bit more metally. Some people, I don't even worry about it, because what I want to put in my body is things that are going to upregulate a better function. It's not so much about me entertaining my palate as it is having my palate to maintain. So the long term of this is amazing. And so we just need to educate ourselves, and I hope to inspire you to aspire to getting a hold of the best things to put inside of your vehicle, the best fuel. This is amazing for people, and it's going to replace the need for some other alternatives. You may have heard of electrolyte drinks. There's some things on the market that are highly recommended. I personally think this is probably the top shelf option for raising my electrolytes.
Well, I tell you what, another thing that I love about pink Himalayan salt, and yeah, I use it in my bath sometimes too, but you can actually buy this pretty inexpensively at, I think where I'm at, it's about $4 a pound, but you can buy it in bulk, just in its food grade as well. Go to any of your natural store markets and get it there. So when you're prepping and you need a lot, I mean, that is one thing that you can knock off the list like really quickly. Now, I know some of you have high blood pressure and you're concerned about that. It's going to be very interesting for you to click on the link below, read it, print it out, take it to your doctor, because he may just say, oh no, you can have that. So if you looked on back on our Build Your Immune System, and we talked a little bit about this type of thing, pink Himalayan salt is really the way to go. So we encourage you to go look, delve back into that video. Real butter, get rid of anything else because it's not even real food and it's hurting you, okay? Again, some of you are going to disagree about that. If you have any problem with that, research it, print it out, take it to your doctor, okay? Add garlic and onions to your food because it does help with build your immune system and does help to reduce viruses. But if you cut your onions in half and you put it around your house, it actually attracts and kills certain viruses. So that's not a bad idea. Just get some essential oils or something going in your house if you're worried about the way it's going to smell. But we do that often around here. If you can plant those anywhere, it doesn't take up much space. They're really, really easy to grow. Plant some onions too, because you will always use them. Now, vinegar. And I'm talking about, you know, what they call the mother. It looks like the yucky stuff in the bottom. You want to get vinegar with the mother and also local honey. Now, again, you can look that up and the reasons why. Now, water, you need to make sure that you have enough water, and most adults, depending on the size, are going to need about a gallon of water a day. That's a lot of water for you to find and store, and you want it filtered. You want it good, clean, reverse osmosis water. If you're going to be buying it in plastic bottles, do not store it in your garage. Do not store it in a place where it can get hot, because it will absorb the BPAs from the bottles. Don't do that, okay? Be careful where you store it. Now, pets, what are they going to eat, Anita? because I don't think that we have enough space for all the dogs that we have, and dog food is expensive. So what if we do get into this situation? Can they eat people food?
Yes, they can. Vegetables, rice is a good filler. I would say at this point, you want to make sure the number one thing that the dogs need is make sure you have clean water. And then food is going to be secondary to that. I think at this point, a lot of people have their dogs on special diets. If you're going to do that, you need to make sure that you've planned ahead for that to be maintained, because they have very delicate digestive systems. So
well, I know, like grapes, like dogs cannot have grapes. They may want it, but they cannot eat that. I think it's the kidneys. I think I read that it shuts down.
The kidneys,
but either way, the point of it is, you have dogs, you have cats, you have horses, you have all sorts of types of animals. You probably need to investigate online what type of human food can that particular animal actually eat, and plan accordingly, and plan that you have enough. Let's see. Okay, supply and demand. This is a very interesting subject, right, Anita?
yes.
Who supplies most of what we purchase? Well, if you guessed China, you guessed right. And where are they at right now? What's going on in China?
Well, that's a very
Go ahead, Anita.
It's a very deep subject. I was just in a conference about that just recently. And with the shutdown and the isolation, basically, of most of the factory workers and the people who are making your toilet paper, your medications, your compositions, and many of the medical supplies that we have in the United States are manufactured, packaged there, and shipped over here. The estimation that I heard just this morning, actually, is that if they actually got all the manufacturing back up as of March 1st, it would take 7 months for them to get everything back online. Can you think of a couple stores in your mind that most of the things, in fact, 70% of products are actually supplied by China? I can think of a couple. And in that case, you know, at this point, possibly having a little extra toilet paper or essential prescriptions or just basic essentials. Maybe you're in a business or you have a lifestyle that depends on certain products that come from there. It would behoove you to do a little pre-pairing in those supply chains. I wanted to go back to the previous slide for just a second, Tony. There was something that came to mind. If you can back that up for just a second.
Let me figure out how to do that. Hold on. Got to get my glasses back on, girl.
Okay.
Okay, there you are.
It was about the onions.
Yeah.
And I wanted people to know this. This is a fact. The fact that you can put this out and it actually will absorb bacteria and viruses. When you have an onion that you're using, it must be sealed once it is cut, because it will. Some people will cut an onion and they'll just loosely wrap it in something and stick it on the counter or in the fridge. It is susceptible to gather illnesses, and sometimes people have gotten sick from the onions that have gathered some of the bacteria and viruses in the environment. It's very important. I just wanted to say that. And as far as pets, there was one more thing I wanted to mention on that, Tony. It is going to be essential if you're tolerating behaviors from your dogs and your pets that would not allow you, and let's say that you had to go into a quarantine somewhere, and now you had to take these pets into this quarantine place, or you couldn't take your pets. Having well-trained pets, having disciplined pets, having a routine for their mental wellness, as long as, and your mental wellness, because an out of control dog is as good as out of control children in that kind of a situation. So I just wanted to mention that. I just think sometimes we don't think about the effects of, you know, if we take what's going on in our home, we have to now insert that into another part of society.
And I think they absorb our anxiety and stress, our energy, right?
Yes.
We ready for the next one?
Yes, let's move along.
Okay, let's go back. Okay, so we talked about where we're getting our supplies from, a lot of it. And well, how long is the 760 million people that are in quarantine right now that we know of? How long are they going to be quarantined for? And what Anita just mentioned about March 1st and the 7 months, well, really, are they going to start production back March 1st? I highly doubt it. The population in China is close to 1.5 billion people. So basically, half of all of China is under quarantine. We don't know what's going to happen around the rest of the world and what they're going to be doing, but it's looking like you need to prepare, okay? So what you can do is expect to see a reduction on the shelves of these items. Tylenol and Advil, guess where we get that from? Over-the-counter medication, most of them come from there too. Antibiotics, vitamin C. Did you know China is the only producer in the world of ascorbic acid? And electronics. We just heard last week that the Fry's electronic stores, not in my part of the country, but I know they're out on the West Coast, wherever you're listening from, it's an electronic store if you don't know that, but their shelves are drastically reducing. And they're putting like iPhone 5 type things out on the shelf just to show that it looks kind of full, right? So we're already seeing that, okay? You're going to see that. So you can also expect to see prices go up. Why? Supply, demand. Little supply, high demand, prices are going to go up. And also, are you aware of a lot of places in the country for different reasons, natural disasters, chemicals, locusts, a lot of crops were lost last year and this year, very much this year. So there's going to be a supply and demand issue with that alone, as if we didn't already have a global crisis going on with the virus. So you can expect supply and demand issues, and things will get more expensive. Now, checklist on prescriptions and over-the-counter medications. So this is something that you will want to take a screen capture of. Do you want to run through these couple of lists, Anita, so I'm not the only one talking?
Well, sure, Tony. I would say that Tylenol, Advil, getting the largest bottles that you can get in case of emergency. These are intervention type things that I would put. Not something I want to take on a regular basis from my perspective. However, you need to have those. Something to treat symptoms, the flu and cold, the cough, the chest decongestants. Enough medications to last you through a 2-week cycle of this per person is really kind of a minimum, because as you said, you're able to actually recontract this. It is very, very contagious. If you have antihistamines for your allergies that you can use the off-brands or varieties, whatever you're using now. Know what you need and make sure that you have something to cover that. Thermometers, they have electronic ones, they have oral ones. Find what is going to work best for you. Antidiarrheal and constipation medications. Absolutely. Once again, if you get weak, your immune system is weak. This is just a couple pieces of this. Go ahead and go ahead, Tony.
Your screen probably covered the very first one. That is asking your doctor for a 3-month supply of any prescriptions you and your family are taking. It may be possible that they can do it, and you can lower your costs with different prescription programs, coupons. Ask your pharmacist. They're glad to help you out on that if there's any way to save. 3 months is not a bad thing to do at this time. If you can get it, get it.
And
the acid reducers, do you see that at the top?
Yeah, I do. And I wanted to go back to the doctor's section for just 1 second. Some of you may be taking some type of a script that they only allow it to be distributed once a month. However, they do have some extreme situations, like if you're going to be traveling or you're under an unusual situation, they can make exceptions. So you need to ask about that right away if you think that might be you. You know if you're taking those. But let's go ahead with acid reducers. I could go back to Himalayan salt and baking soda, but all right, vitamin C and echinacea. Right now, if we know that there's something potentially in the market, when is the best time to prepare? It's now. It's getting the rest, having good food, have your defenses at the ready, because the battle is not coming. The battle is here now. Bandages and wraps. You never know when you're going to need this, right? And there's not a good time to be without those when you do need them. Burn gels. Along with this, super glue seals cuts. Yes, clean it, then seal it. It can stop burns. It can also be used on abrasions and contusions. In other words, cuts and abrasions across the skin, like when you skid. One of the worst painful things to have happen. Opens up a lot of skin and it burns. So hydration powders for electrolytes. Yes, right there, guys. That goes along with that thought. Some people like those powders. Find out what you want to use and make a decision, but make an informed decision about that. Hard copies, print out of books of your remedies. Maybe you have something that's worked for you for a long time and you want to make sure, if you're the one who has all the knowledge in your household or in your clan, you want to make sure the rest of the people can access that if you're kind of down and out, right? Essential oils and herbs. Highly recommend. We have actually a section, Tony, don't we? We have a section that talks about some essential oils if you need to get beefed up on that and have a more robust
Yeah, I think that's under our business section, but yeah, we do have a video up on that.
Yes, so I would recommend you go in there and check that out.
Especially because the source that we provided you with is 100% certified pure essential oils, and so much, at least, if not more, than half the cost of the other quality oils that you're used to. So go check that one out.
Absolutely. You know, we were talking earlier about antibacterial soaps. 20 to 30-second hand washings. I love this, singing the ABC song. It's kind of the same rule when you're brushing your teeth or something like that, you know. Duration here, not just a visit. The temperature of the water, by the way, it's always best to wash your hands in warm water. And the reason is because it'll actually make the oils on your skin more viscous and allow any kind of bacteria that's in those crevices to actually release. Cold water tends to set up oils, by the way, and not a time for cryogenics here. It's a time to actually cleanse and to make sure that you've removed viruses and bacteria and any kind of matter that they would feed on.
Mm-hmm. And hard water has the hard deposits that actually stick to your skin, that stick to the soap and everything else that you're trying to rinse off. So you might want to go look about the one I did on getting duped about your water, and another one on education about your water. So there's 2 ones on water. So if you're looking at filtering your home, not a bad idea to check that out. Okay, contractor garbage bags. Now, how are we going to use contractor garbage bags?
Many different ways.
But those are real thick and heavy. So this is not like your indoor 13-gallon kitchen bags. These are very heavy duty. You have to be intentional about busting them open. So I don't know where you live. I live out in the country, so it's really easy. If something were to happen, I needed to go outside to use the bathroom, I have a shovel. Okay, I'm fine. But what if you're in a different situation and you cannot do that? You need a 5-gallon bucket that has a sealed lid, but you're going to line it with that contractor garbage bag, because you need to make sure that nothing's going to leak out of it, and you can seal it. So if you need to use it for a toilet, you'll have it. And a 5-gallon empty buckets or with a sealed lid it's not a bad idea. And sawdust for toilet compost, not a bad idea. And we were talking about this earlier, you can put that inside the 5-gallon bucket that you're using for a toilet, right, Anita?
Absolutely. And then it can be disposed of properly or buried properly at a different time, and it actually is not going to be toxic, and it's not going to be offensive either. The sawdust, actually, the oils and the natural composition of sawdust, pine sawdust is the best, or cedar. Mm-hmm. You can buy different types of sawdust, but yeah, it's readily used and has been used even back in the day of the outhouses. Most of us with indoor plumbing are not familiar with that, but it's not as offensive as one might think, as long as you have the right tooling.
You know what we forgot to put on this list? We talked about it earlier.
Toilet paper?
Toilet paper! Yeah, there's different types. If you're taking a screenshot and you're listening, you got to go get some toilet paper. That's got to go on the list. I just thought about something else. It'll come back to me, I'll tell you what. And then the indoor garbage bags, you just need to make sure that you have a lot of there's some disposable things we're about to talk about, but where are you going to dispose of them, right? So make sure you have plenty. I don't think you can ever have too much, because when you're prepping, it's interesting that you can actually use what you have in case you need to, because you have a supply of it. We were also talking about super absorb. It's those little beads, like polymers that are in the diapers. So when your child goes to the bathroom in the diaper, it absorbs. So it absorbs bodily fluids. So when people are sick, what do? Come on, moms and dads, the kids are going to throw up all over everywhere, and you try to get a whole bunch of paper towels, and then it gets on you. And no, that's just, it could be blood, it could be diarrhea, it could be all sorts of things. So make sure to look up super absorb. There's a lot of different places that you can get it, but make sure that you have that on hand, because you're going to have a mess to clean up. And you're also when you're cleaning it up, you want to make sure that you're wearing everything, that all your protective gear. We'll get into that on the next slide. So disinfectants, we've got rubbing alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, and bleach. Now, some people know that vodka is a great disinfectant, and it can also be used to clean wounds. And why people are starting to get into using vodka for that is because you can buy it in a large quantity, right? And if you compare like how much rubbing alcohol that you would need to compare to that one big bottle of vodka, you'll see why people are doing that. But I highly recommend, if there's anybody in your house that has a problem with drinking alcohol, don't get it. Go get these. I know hydrogen peroxide is, super cheap. You probably find bleach pretty cheap, and the rubbing alcohol. So anyway, look at that. Eye protection. You want to make sure that your eyes are totally protected. See, I'm wearing glasses, so I'm not going to get the swim goggles. I would get the safety goggles that seal all the way around, so that way I can still wear my glasses and see what's up. I'd be able to read instructions, my remedy books, and that kind of thing. So whatever is good for you, I would go, listen, this list that we're going through, if everybody went out to start buying these products like right now, how much of that's going to be on the shelf, and if and when it'll ever be restocked? So you probably need to figure out what's the best for you and prioritize this list with your family, what y'all need to get, right? Okay, so the next one, let's talk about quarantining rooms. You may get to a point where you have to quarantine rooms, but you might actually, and I'm so hoping that this does not happen to you, but when we're prepping, we have to think about this, because if you've been watching some of these videos that have been coming from across the pond, you're having to remove bodies, and a lot of them, and very quickly. Well, how are you going to do that, right? So you need heavy plastic, very thick, heavy plastic, You can get it from Walmart or Home Depot. I think that like a heavy plastic would be, well, you'll feel it and you'll know, but I think it's 4 mils, something like that. But check that out. Just thick, heavy plastic. Make sure that you have enough that you can cover all of your rooms, all of your doorways, just in case you have to. And then it may come a time where, I don't know, maybe the dog gets rambunctious and just, hightails it in through that, even though you duct taped or gorilla taped and sealed it off. And then now you have to seal it up again. So make sure that you have more than what you've measured and know that you need, right? And you need plenty of disposable gloves. You may not know if you're allergic to latex or not. If you're not sure, I would suggest getting the latex free, because if you don't know, what if you are, and then now you're in another situation, right? Why would we need the rest of this stuff on this list? Why don't you take this, Anita?
Well, I think that this is the core things that I would keep in my house at all times, because you never know. I live in Colorado, and there is snowstorms. Sometimes there's tornadoes, sometimes there's earthquakes. And we are really aware right now that this is an impending need for viral, right? That's kind of the topic of the day. I think that disposable gloves, yes, absolutely. And you might want to make sure that you have some of those heavier duty chemical gloves. They come in different grades. There's just, there's very thin ones and heavier duty ones. If you've got to handle bleach and chemicals, you want to make sure you protect yourself, because those things will definitely stress your immune system if you introduce a bunch of chemicals to your skin. Your second
You know
biggest
what? That's a really good point, because I do have some heavy duty dishwashing gloves. Yes. And they go all the way up to the elbow, but I didn't buy those for dishwashing gloves. I bought those for other uses or outside of the house. So it was cheaper than like the other types of gloves, and I thought even better protections. Yeah, that's all types of gloves. That's a good thing.
Yeah, the chemical gloves are very much thick, much more thick than just the what would say the dishwashing gloves. They're much heavier grade for handling chemicals. They're chemical resistant, because there's many chemicals that are very caustic, and you've got to have a much heavier quality. Disposable coveralls, Tyvek bodysuits, things that keep things from getting on you and taking it to another area is the purpose of this. And so get something that fits you, something that totally covers you, along with the booties. As you're out and about walking around and going places, it's best to have a place out of your living area to leave your shoes. We do this all the time. We come in with groceries or whatever. It's a good time. It's a good practice to kick your shoes off at the door. It's not just a cultural thing. It's a good, healthy thing. If we pick up bacteria, viruses, funguses, molds, even our dogs, out on the trail, wherever that might be, maybe a grocery store, you can pick up those chemicals and bring them in and put those on your hard surfaces, your carpets. You might sit down on the couch and just kind of prop your feet up a little bit and think, I don't have my shoes on there. Well, you don't really know what you're doing sometimes. An apron, at least, if you're going to be handling a bunch of stuff, is a good thing to protect yourself. Disposable aprons, if you're going to be handling anything toxic. Masks. Now, this is where Tony's quite the expert on this. Tony, not all masks are created equal, and they're wearing masks actually. They're requiring them for people who are infected, but many people who are not infected are wearing them as a daily protection. And those masks are only good for one day, unless you've got a double cartridge that you just sanitize, and you got the heavy duty ones. Looks like you're wearing a gas mask kind of stuff. Having the disinfectant wipes. Maybe you don't have a readily supply of water. You can actually use the disinfectant wipes to clean around some of those masks. I gotta say, at this point, disinfectant wipes are probably one of the most important things to have. Cleaning off your door handles, your steering wheel, your keys. We
Your
go to the grocery store,
phone.
your phone. If you go to the store, this is interesting, Tony. I think we briefly spoke about this. You go to the market, you get one of those little handy baskets, right? On that handy basket, other people have come and shopped. Do you know what they had their hands in? Did they have their hands in, you know, doing something nasty? Do they wash their hands? Have they had their hands in some kind of a toxic substance, like maybe a powder that would be absorbed into your skin and affect you? So this is not about being hypersensitive, it's about being aware, and it's about being proactive. So as I go to the store, I wipe off the handle of the cart before I grab the sanitary wipes they have at the door before I get the cart.
And if you buy the disinfectant wipes in bulk, have different baggies and Ziploc bags. Just stick them in there. You don't have to make it expensive and buy a whole bunch of those little ones that are already divided up for you. Okay. Yeah. And you need to have a couple of those Ziploc baggies of disinfectant wipes in your car, in your purse, in your truck, because how many times have all of us gone to stores and those wipes are empty? And you might be living in a part of a country or a part of the world. We do have friends worldwide that I'm sure are going to watch this, because we're going to send it to you. Is that you might not even have that. You know, some of your stores might not even offer that. So make sure that you have that. Okay. Okay. So since we're talking about shopping, stay away from crowds as much as possible. I know that that might require, if you have to go shopping, to set the alarm early to get up and go before everybody else gets there. Or late at night or a Sunday afternoon if your stores are light on traffic on those days. But do the best you can about avoiding crowds during this time. I think that's wise. But some work around crowds and you might work at those grocery stores, you might work at a mall, you might work at a hospital, you might work at a manufacturing center, you might be a UPS or FedEx driver, you might be an Uber or Lyft driver, right? So take as much precaution now, start building your immune system, start preparing. But what happens if for some reason it comes to you being unable to work? So you need to start preparing now so you can take care of yourself. We're in the United States, and on any given day, it is very, very few can actually go and spend an extra $400 a month. Like that is, I don't know where you're at in the world, but maybe you didn't know that. That's true. A lot of people are hurting over here. So to ask you to start thinking about prepping, we know you're on a budget. So we're trying to give you some ideas of how to start preparing now. Start building your list. Even if it's only $5 or $10 a week, make it a priority to start preparing. Now, what if nothing ever happens? You have this stuff for a year or 2 or 3. I think that we're living in a time period in history that if it's not this one thing, it's going to be another. But if you're thinking this thing just, maybe it'll come, maybe it'll not, you're going to be able to use every single thing that you bought. So it's not a bad idea to stock up. And we discussed this earlier. Go ahead, Anita. You told me about the wisdom portion of this. This is great.
Well, most of us are educated, and that's knowledge. But the correct use of the knowledge is wisdom. And so we brought some points forward today. Hopefully it's actually stimulated you, inspired you to aspire to be prepared. Make sure that the people, you and some others around you are going to have a better life, a quality of life, because if you have a plan, the unexpected is going to come someday. It does. It's just called life. And you can actually be ready to respond instead of react with fear and anxiety. That is what we aim to do here, is to make sure that you guys are kind of, doing some memory jogging here, maybe adding a few things to your toolbox So if you come to be a plumber and you got a box full of all the tools you need, you can address whatever situation because you know all the tools that need to come into that problem. And that's all we're doing here. So we have another video coming here soon, Tony. Tell them what we're going to talk about next.
Right. Well, the point of gaining the knowledge is so you can become wise, so you have something to apply. Mm-hmm. And what does that do? It reduces fear and anxiety. And, you know, I know, like my grandparents, they lived through the Great Depression. Guess what? They got prepared, and it was rough going for them. They never wanted to live through a time period like that, but they were prepared. And they taught us a lot about preparing as well. But in the next video, we're going to go really deep on how and why you need to reduce your stress levels through gaining knowledge so you can become wise, and how that actually affects your immune system, which is what we all need to be building right now. So what we need you to do is to subscribe and click the bell. I know it doesn't take but a few extra seconds. Click the bell and then click all, because that way you can get notified when the next video is up. So share this with the ones that you care about, the ones that you love, and start making your own plans. I know that there was something while we were doing this video, it was like, oh, I didn't put that in there. I don't even remember what it was. So guess what? I'm sure that y'all thought about something. So go back and take screenshots of everything if you want to, build your own list, and definitely in the comments below of this video, you're welcome to add more of your own thoughts of how to prepare. I want to give a shout out before we close this out, Anita. A lot of this information came from Prepper Nurse 1, like the number 1, Prepper Nurse 1. He's really good at explaining some things. I took a list that he had. He didn't have it like on a screen share, but he gave you the list. You could sit there and take down notes, which is what I did. Anita and I talked, and we started, well, we need to add this, we need to add this, we need to add this. So Prepper Nurse 1, thank you. Some things on this list I never would have thought of, but because of you, I was able to do that. So maybe we can have him on sometime. I would love to have him on. Yeah, so Prepper Nurse 1, you're welcome anytime so we can discuss this further. We didn't mean to become, on this channel, preppers. Or giving out that type of knowledge, but we have a lot of people that know us, follow us, and that we wanted to produce this. We can actually send it out to them. So thank you. Subscribe, click that bell, and click all. Y'all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, stay well.